a major thing that we have to deal with, since we are onto that, is the question of land.
Thank you. Land ownership and land access.
Land ownership. Because, there is a lot of talk about reparations. And I support that talk is about getting the colonizers and those who were involved in the enslavement of our people to provide some compensation for their evil deeds of the past. But I am a firm believer that we here in the country also, that discussion is good.
Yes.
But we don't need anybody to come out of England
to tell us to sort out.
Tell us that the people who were on the plantation and who got no compensation, not even a sliver, that with all the land that is around, we cannot organize our own local system of reparations.
That's
so
true.
That the people who are farming the land, the square of land, and don't have a title, can get a title to that land. Because, and be able now to go to the bank with the title. And say, well, I want to vote it. Or
land revolution.
Land revolution. We need it. And it's not just the farmer, because all across the corporate area, Spanish Town, part of Portmore, Lakes, Penn, all above, we have people living on so-called capture land.
Yes, too much capture land business.
But we can't, them not capture it because they're wicked. It's some of the hardest working people, for the most part. What happened is that 150 years ago, 180 years ago, when we came off of the plantation, they had nowhere to go.
Yes.
And them been bouncing around for the 100+ years. Time come now, since I will say that we should be making the arrangement so that I can carry on show you streets. We're having organized for people to get their title. Then put up some wonderful residences for themselves. And on the other side of the street, where them don't have the title, them still in a tattoo and broke down boardhouse. If you get the access to the land, you watch the people with the title, and that title and that house will become an asset, just like how the uptown people take that title, want to start a business.
Yes.
Them go and them give the bank and them say, all right, see it here. You mustn't do it stupidly. But you go in and you go to the bank. That is what will set our people on the path to some wealth accumulation and developing viable businesses. And we need to do that. Again, these are things we should be uniting around. We should be creating this reality for the Jamaican families, for all the families, that if you're born, you send your child to school, they get a good education. They come out of school, that education qualify them to get a job or to start a business. And if they can get their own start, you know what would be a great, what would be a great assistance to just family life?
Yes.
Just having people with a house which they could put their family in.
Wow. So, do you believe that the Prime Minister's program, where he's saying that 2 and 3 family members can own one house, do you see that as a progressive policy?
Let me put it this way. I don't think, even with the great experience and the great policy initiative that was undertaken during Michael Manley's time to establish the housing trust,
Yes.
we have never built enough houses in any single year to satisfy the demand for houses. And we need to develop some much more imaginative approaches like rent to own and some of those
But
things,
that was a part of your manifesto in 2020.
that would enable that to happen. Yes. So those are things that we have to move on with now. Absolutely. Because housing trust is like a partner, as I always said.
But don't you believe that the housing trust presently has lost its true mandate and purpose?
It's lost its way to a considerable degree. Yes, it's lost its way. Because we're just not building enough. One of the first things I did when came into government in 1989 under the direction of Comrade Michael Manley.
Oh, Manley.
Was the Greater Portmore Housing Scheme, 15,000 houses.
Oh, yes.
Over there to be built. And they were built and marketed. They were built with financing organized through the housing trust, organized by Jamaica from Venezuela, and coming through the housing trust. Houses were built various sizes, and you would be amazed at the numbers of people who were lining up down at the arena to buy the houses as they became available. We need some. I'm not saying that we should use that particular model, but that shows you the extent of the demand. People want affordable housing, and we haven't been providing them with it.
I appreciate you carrying the discussion there. You said the economy has crashed. Do you believe that's one of the reasons why Nigel Clark left Jamaica to take up residence?
I can't talk about what was in Nigel Clark's mind why he went, but what I can say is that the current situation that he left is not one that makes the majority of the people have confidence in what was done. And I think the main question that people have is that whether the decision to kind of pay down the debt even quicker than was in the program that they had agreed with the International Monetary Fund was the wisest approach, and whether or not there should have been less paying down and more opportunity to spend some of the money that we were using to pay down.
So you're saying that
I want you and the members. I am not, because I started it. We have to pay down our debt. And what we have is an agreement, and they call the part of the budget that you basically using to pay it down. Speaking loosely, the primary surplus. Now, if they say you need to run a primary surplus of 6%
Yes.
of your budget, huh?
Mm-hmm.
To, in order to pay it down. We were doing it at 7 and 7.5%,
Okay.
the government of Jamaica. And you have to say now, in the last period,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe we should have been slowing down a bit. I think there are lots of issues about whether there was a proper growth strategy
Mm.
that was being pursued, and how effective it was. There were these are issues that we certainly could have a discussion about whether or not it was the management and the fiscal side. I mean, I hear people talking about the the fiscal accounts being out of balance, and you know how some of the expenditures within the government. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of debts were run up. A lot of people are owed money. A lot of the quality of project implementation leaves a lot to be desired. You just have to
Like
look
the
at
Cornwall Regional Hospital.
or this or the South Coast Highway going the St. Thomas end, that you get a breeze and little rain and the whole road that you
Mash.
just built,
Mm.
uh, almost wash away again. Or as you said, the hospital, or the lack of maintenance that almost caused every road in the country.
To have a pothole.
Yes, all of those things
That is a conversation.
are relevant questions.
The Prime Minister now says that the potholes in Jamaica is a national crisis.
I think it is, but it's
How
also a personal crisis. You check the number of taxi people
mm-hmm.
and front end mashup, the number of teachers whose car dropped in a pothole and broke up the springs and the steering columns and whatnot. People who have lost tires have to buy new set of tire because the tire mash up. So it is a national crisis. But I just don't want us to miss the fact that the national crisis is really made up of thousands of personal crises.
Mm. How did we get here? Because you say the economy has crashed. So is it mismanagement by this administration that has caused us to be here?
Well, look at it this way. The leader of the opposition the other day made an obvious and very pertinent, very relevant comment.
Mm-hmm.
That he said that there is a ministry. This is the first government that formed a Ministry of Economic Growth.
Yes.
The Prime Minister is the Minister of Economic Growth.
Mm-hmm.
But we have had none.
Hey! Repeat that, Dr. Phillips.
No, man, I am not on a platform, but that's just an obvious fact. We have had a Ministry of Economic Growth.
Mm-hmm.
Was started, was a novelty.
5
The
in 4.
Prime Minister said, I am going to be the head of this ministry. But we have had no growth.
No growth.
There was a committee that was set up that said we were going to get 5% growth in 4 years.
Where is that?
In no single year have we got 2. So something is wrong. And rather than, I don't expect that, but one of the things I would hope for is more honesty in the discussion, because these are relevant things. Maybe the honesty won't come out of the contenders for office. Maybe the honesty should be coming out of our universities and others having the discussion, because part of why we get lost
Yes.
as a country is like you're going on a journey, and instead of anybody sit down and look at the map and have a rational discussion, all the passengers in the vehicle just start quarreling. Is a recipe for a crash. And that is, we need to do better as a country. And I said this not in a partisan way. I just say it as a Jamaican at the end of a career and saying, boy, when I look at it, and when I look at some of the other countries in the world and what they have done, while I am not detracting from the good things that have happened in Jamaica, our incomes are lower than they are in Trinidad, in Barbados, in Bahamas, and these places, and not to mention places like Singapore and other places. And I just want us to have the discussion that says, how are we going to come out of this predicament so that 40 years' time we're not saying the same thing?
But in that regard, you're speaking about the incomes of the common workers in Jamaica lower than the other Caribbean and other nations across the world.
Plenty lower.
But the salaries of your parliamentarians are considerably higher in comparison to other Caribbean nations across in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, etc. Do you think that the 300 or 200% increase that was given to parliamentarians and people in higher office, do you think it was done properly, or do you see?
I believe that there is scope and should have been scope for a serious discussion about the issues. I don't think that a kind of secret approach to it. These are some classic.
So you're saying a consultation should have been done?
A discussion, an open discussion, yes. With people, with unions, you don't have to. Look, years ago, 80s, 70s, the arrangement was that the permanent secretaries and these people who negotiate, they have a salary, and the minister would get $1 a week more than the permanent secretary.
Okay.
For all kinds of reasons, usually the people in the political executive not wanting to take pay increases for one reason or the other, or for whatever reason, that connection was broken. That relation, that linkage was broken. And permanent secretary salaries went way ahead of minister salaries. State agencies and people employed to places like UDC, Petra, NHT went way, and these people were not getting a fat cat salary or anything. They were just what the market, what you would be getting if you're in the private sector, etc. Now, I don't know what the ratio is I